approve minutes.
I have a question on one item. Do I wait till you make the motion or? I don't know.
Sure, that could be a motion if you want it to be. And then now you can ask a question, sorry.
Oh, okay, I'm like.
Yeah.
Under the first point under director's report, I didn't know that we had agreed to revisit in July, and I might have just missed that comment or.
So
Does that
it,
make sense?
I think the reason we said revisit in July about that particular thing is because we wanted to have, and this is just my interpretation of what happened.
Yeah.
Everyone correct me if I'm wrong. But we decided to do that because we figured at that point, we would understand where we're going to be with our budget as well as, other things that we know are in motion.
Yeah.
So we figured by July, we would be able to have a better understanding holistically of our situation.
I just wasn't aware of that. So Angela makes a motion that the minutes are accepted as written.
Okay, Angela motions, 20 seconds.
Spencer will second.
Spencer seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. So then we'll just move right along to new business. Most of the new business is in the director's report, so we're just going to go ahead and lump those together. Yeah, I feel like the microphones are a little touchy today. I turned mine on and there's a big boom.
I thought that was being the, yeah, apparently I have two dead microphones, I didn't capture the one. So,
Starts on page 5.
yep. So the first item is, tree removal, as indicated in the, document that we have a tree out front that is showing signs of splitting. It's the one that we actually had the fall off last year, during the storm. I had, them come out and look at it and check it. Yes, there is potential for it to split. It could be another 5 years. It could be tomorrow when it storms really bad. So the recommendation was to have it removed. Question is, do we remove it and replace it with a new tree, or do we remove it and just regrass that area? And my recommendation, based on cost and the area that's in, is just to remove it and spur grass. So I just want to make sure that the board is okay with that decision to go with that option.
I would move that we authorize director to remove the green apple
Greg motions. Does anybody want a second?
and not replace it.
Oh, and not replace. Yeah,
Yes,
sorry. So
I was-
as
well,
stated.
I was asking about, is it grand apple tree?
I don't think it is a.
Whatever, that tree in the picture,
Yeah.
remove it and just let it grass over until, see if we got extra money.
I'll second that.
Joel seconds.
I would ask, like, ask, what fund does that come out of it? I assume we have a maintenance fund.
Yeah, it's come out.
Great.
Is the rationale for not replanting purely financial at this point, given?
For me, it would be.
For me, looking at the position where it is, you're gonna have drop onto traffic and you're gonna have drop onto parking. So just for a practical standpoint, I would say not to replace it.
What do you think, Spencer?
Our town has a habit of cutting down trees and not replanting them. And, situations are different for each one, so if that's what we have to do, that's what we have to do, but.
Well, and that's, if we had a dearth of trees, if we didn't have it way out back.
Yeah.
And several along the front, I would feel differently. I like trees, and Columbia State does have a tree board, so if they're taking them down and not replacing them, usually they will, somebody.
Actually, it's a private property that's.
Oh, okay.
But yes,
Yeah,
your point stands.
They've always replaced one.
Yeah. But yeah, if in response, it's primarily the cost, but it's also the location right next to the cars and the parking. I think is a device, but yeah, mainly cost, I would opt that direction.
I would also agree with Spencer. I don't like necessarily not replacing the tree, but I do think that that location is a little complicated. And like Greg said, we have a lot of trees out here. So Joel has already seconded, so we'll go ahead and we'll put this to a vote. All in favor, by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Spencer,
Spencer, opposed. Okay, it passes.
And by the way, that's not to say that we shouldn't replace it or put another tree
Sure.
in that area at some point, but
Yeah.
let's wait and see when we have an extra $1,000.
Well, maybe we can find a smaller one, I mean, and put that in there.
Or a different
I mean-
location.
Yes.
Or, yeah.
I would say
change
different
the
location.
I do agree though with that picture, the way it stands, that it's a little problematic as to what Mark said in the parking lot and in the driveway. If limbs would come down.
Schools just celebrated Earth Day and a lot of students were able to take home trees that were given out by like the Arbor Day Foundation. Is there any way we could maybe adopt a tree from one of our patrons?
Especially
Especially since we
also sticks. I mean, you need to know, they are about this big and they are a
And
stick.
they will require constant watering
Yeah.
and maintenance.
Yeah.
It's usually went home with fourth graders, that's so.
Yes, we actually,
Sticks.
we adopted one at the Bras house. That's why I brought it up. But I thought maybe just because, and we would have, it would be an educational thing. And it doesn't need to go here, but it could go somewhere else, just.
I don't have any problems. Just trying to grow trees other places.
Just might be something to staff if we could do.
And definitely include children in it too. I mean, with the Arbor Day Foundation or whoever, I mean, it could be a learning process.
Yeah, and we have a wetland, so it's not like we're in a shortage of water, but just to see, we can move on to the next thing. We obviously have our discussion, so.
Next topic is hoopla. I was asked to make recommendation. I have lots of data there and information. I would recommend that we cut the number of loans we allow patrons down to 4. We're currently at 9. That will impact the fewest number of patrons. There's there, as it shows, 1 to 4, we have lots of usage. And then a little at 5 and 6, and we jump up to more at 7, 8, and 9. But even then, that's still the minority of users. But that will help us control that line item and how much we're spending towards Hoopla. And that's working my recommendation.
And Mike, I have a question. We have audiobooks, we have music, and videos.
Yes. Yeah. Although videos are not used, it's mostly audiobooks.
Oh, what I was gonna say is, what is accounting for the 15% of people that are
The majority,
handing it out?
the majority of Hoopla is audiobooks, and then it goes to ebooks, and then the other stuff is way down.
What is the other stuff? Videos?
Video.
They also have
Shows,
music,
music,
right?
Yeah.
magazines,
Yeah.
and
Oh, that's
we have
right.
educational.
Where the office comes in at?
No, I think that's.
That's.
That may be-
Okay, thank you.
Would you like a motion for that?
I have another question.
Okay.
On your last statement on there, yes, it affects 35%, but we can refocus some budget money to elsewhere. If we're limiting them, aren't we trying to cut some budget out, or am I confused?
So, yeah, what the problem with, the largest problem with Hoopla is it tends to skyrocket. With Libby, we can say we're only going to spend X number of dollars, and that's, if we're buying the thing. With Hoopla, they have access to the whole catalog, and depending on how many people use it, it dictates how much we pay each month.
Makes sense.
So if we cut the resources, we still have to spend, again, 8% of our budget towards question development. So this money is from that, but what we could then put towards Libby and the popular titles that have a lot of holes or whatnot, or we're not buying right now because we're putting money elsewhere, we can get some of those things. And so still help that need and control our spending and not run out of money for the law in August or whatever it might
July,
be.
okay.
So theoretically, we can cater to a broader swath of people with the same amount of money.
Yeah.
Perhaps at least make people wait less long.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm not necessarily a fan of that idea, and it's just because I like the concept where with Hoopla, it is patrons actively getting materials. They get materials in their hands at a cheaper rate, whereas Libby, we're throwing things at subscriptions with the hope that patrons are going to use them. And if we get multiple subscriptions, yes, that means that the wait list is not as long, but a lot of times you could have a shorter wait list if you actually had a physical thing in there, and then we would have ownership of it. So is there any difference between like an online subscription with Libby versus having a physical paper copy in our hands?
You're suggesting we allocate that money not towards Libby, but towards the physical book instead?
I don't know. I would rather, I want to know the pros and cons.
But
because-
that's what you're asking. about.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
got it.
sorry.
So one of the things with, on both, so with Libby, the usage is about 50/50 for ebooks and audio.
Yes,
So, some of most of the audio books are no longer being produced in CD, so we can only get them through Libby or Hoopla.
Right.
So if people are using it to go to listen to as they drive, or they might not want a physical book, or they want the reader on the Kindle because it's a smaller, device rather than a book. So I don't know that buying a physical copy will help with that. Well, it might, I don't know.
Different needs, different clientele.
Yeah.
I don't remember the board ever setting the limits on Hoopla or.
Okay.
So when I asked if you needed a motion, I'm not sure unless we would object universally that I would leave that within your discretion as to how to allocate that stuff, especially if what you think is the main thing that's going to be compromised when you use Hoopla is our audio books, and that Libby maybe fill that and can steer them in that direction. So.
Yeah, I agree. I think we allocate the budget for this particular thing, and I think we should be leaving it up to your discretion how to best allocate that budget for the most impact that we can get out of it. I continue to want to push to make sure we're doing it as effectively as we can. But at the end of the day, I think it's budgeted.
Yeah, and know that we are not the only library out there that is frustrated with the cost and Hoopla continuing to.
But Hoopla has a captive audience and, are they just making money hand over fist, or is it just the cost, the right by the rights of that extension?
Yes and yes.
Okay. Okay, I'm just curious because I'm like, they really, they've got a nice gig here.
Probably publishers are charging more, which leads down, it's a model that people have enjoyed over the years. It's like, oh, we can charge more because people like it. There are ways to curb it because we can set, which we do, the amount of the items and photos and stuff like that, but we have it set fairly low, and we're still seeing our usage and our budget go out of control. So,
Well, that's still mixed news. It's bad that it's costing more. It's good that people
yeah,
are utilizing the
absolutely,
resources.
absolutely. But yeah, there are a lot of libraries that are completely getting rid of the block because they're able to control it better.
I do think that even though it's not a board required decision, I think it's wise to gently ratchet things down rather than probably substantially ratchet things down. If we do change, I don't know that I would go that.
Maybe stair step it.
Yeah. One bit at a time, see how it goes. See if it makes sense.
and this is just a recommendation from the board, right? We don't have to vote on it, and this is just what we recommend to Mike.
Yeah,
We don't-
it was a request to find out more and how we can
Right.
help control that budget line, because it seems to jump regularly, so.
In reading it the first time through, my initial thought was 5 rather than 4, but that's all the dice. If I'm looking at the pie chart right, it looks to be about 1/5 of the people are doing more than 4. If that chart is, anywhere close. It's not quite a quarter. I'm looking at the right colors.
It's 35%.
Yeah, 35% are doing more than 4.
14 of that 35% are the power users.
Yes, they're doing 9.
And it looks like our board member emeritus is dying to offer something. And I know we normally don't recognize something.
Yes, I would opt, unless we want to discuss this as a board, that, we don't take comments from the public. We have a process for that, and unfortunately it does take weeks in advance. I'm gonna hold us to that. So love to talk to you after.
All right, so I will move forward and, we might step it down to something other than 4, see how it.
I guess I would Spencer in a little bit on that, is that if I'm used to going in and knowing that I have 9 to use and all of a sudden have 4.
I also wouldn't be shocked if people are just taking them out and not realizing that each time they do it, it costs the library money.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have known.
yeah. And so, some people look at it and download it and say, oh, wait, that's not what I wanted. And so we just paid for something they looked at for a few seconds. So,
Well, and everybody's making budget cuts, so
Yeah,
yeah, there'll be
if we're gonna do it, now's the time to do it. If we have excuses.
there'll be messaging around before we make any kind of change or anything that time. So,
That's a great direction. I think that's a great segue into our next portion.
Fun.
so as we've been talking about for months, budgets and budget issues, the potential changes to legislation, both the SB 1, which is changed to SEA 1, for the property tax reform, passed, as well as the state budget also passed. Both of those affect either directly or indirectly our funding or how we are able to allocate money. The property tax will definitely affect us going forward.
The sign.
yes, we will affect it, right.
It will reduce the amount of revenue we get from property taxes. It's affecting all governmental entities, towns, municipalities, fire departments, all that. Counties are all facing the same issues. The state budget is a little bit less obvious. It's how it's going to affect us even now, because they're trying to figure out how they're going to allocate money. Some things that we get discounted rates on if the state library pays and offset some of that cost are Spire databases, our shipment and courier services, Evergreen, Indiana. All those things are supplemented. Technology, the cost, we get money each year for technology grants to help with our internet, high-speed internet and stuff. The state library is still figuring out what they can and can't do with the budget they have. And so they've made promises that they're going to do everything they can to keep it Spire and whatnot, but we don't know yet what that is going to look like. Which I outlined all this stuff in the board report. As you can see, how our property tax, our revenue will be affected going forward. All that is to say that even with these changes, I think we are in far better shape than other libraries. We have had a history of being very fiscally minded and adding to reserves. So we have reserves, we have funds. So I am not proposing kind of wild, crazy cuts. I think we need to continue on with what the budget we have. If we can, if we have the money to fund it as is. And doing so will allow us to make cuts later on down the road if needed. So we're taking a very cautious approach, making sure that we are being the most investment on what we are spending, and things that aren't showing, use, two examples of those are, the Mango and Comics Plus databases. We love having them. They're great resources, but we just don't have the traffic to those to justify. And again, those are not huge expenses, but they are expenses that will save us money going forward. And doing those type of analysis, which we are always doing, we're always looking at those things, to make those determinations, but just being a little bit more judicious with those, decisions going forward. Any questions? That's a very superficial overview of all of this.
Thank you for the summary. I think it was good. This is obviously a really hard topic. I see at the end here, or just our discussion points, that we have, obviously your recommendations, to reduce our spending. Do we need to have, or do we need to vote on that?
Again, my thought is at this juncture, these are discretionary. That's why we pay mine. So I
would agree. So we'll continue on business as usual. What about
Can I ask you differences between the two charts, because I'm not getting it. Second chart, you said our revenue will increase 5% annually after.
So it took me like 10 different looks at this particular sample.
Okay, good.
The first chart is comparison of what it would be under the old law
Right,
and how that would increase compared with under the new law. So there's a huge difference between what we would have been making in 2028,
right,
the revenue compared to what we will under the new law. It's
Correct.
7.2%. But if you look at the other one is the initial change and then year after year. So the initial change will be from what we will get about 2% less next year than what we would have.
Than what we get this year.
Yeah, sorry, correct. Thank you.
Well, the only difference is the change
And then
Yes.
is what's subtracted from what.
yeah, and then after that will be we will be back up about 5.7%.
so on the second one, like in 2026, you're not taking the top number minus the second number to get the change in dollars.
No,
That is the top number of 2025 minus the
Thank
second
you.
right now. Yeah.
yeah, the top number. And this is
Thank you.
the government's charge. I just,
Okay, so I'm like, that math is not, that's.
Yeah.
wacky.
yeah, it was. It
Don't
took
feel
me-
bad. It took me a while to.
It took me a lot of time.
Why are
looking
these
at those
different?
charts.
You have to like, they didn't do math.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So next year, we have to account for a 2% budget cut as compared to this year.
Yeah, yeah.
But we also have more than the 2% that we're going to have to account for because I think we need to assume that what we're getting out of the state library is going to dramatically be cut. As well as I don't know how the funding flows from the IMLS into the state library.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think we have to assume that's gone too.
These are all unknowns.
So,
As of right now.
so yes, the 2% cut as compared to this year doesn't look so bad, but it's actually going to be substantially worse than that. I would imagine.
And we'll know more when it gets close to October, November, when we're doing budget for next
Yeah,
year, right?
And
Hopefully.
we'll be doing budget next year earlier than that,
Perfect.
because it has to be approved and finalized by November. So we'll be doing it like
Good to know that.
in like July, August, we'll be
Okay.
looking at it. So that, any other questions on this before I make the slight tangent?
Okay, go ahead.
So I will get this document to all of you. I'll send it out. But every year, Sandy Petrie up at Noble County Public Library and a group of other librarians across the state have a budget task force. And they look at all the new laws and things like that. They put together a document to help guide directors, boards, and stuff. So they've done that. I've read it a couple times and it's still a lot, and it's still, even that is a lot of unknown that they're guessing on and assuming. But one of the big takeaways from it, and I emailed her, and I talked to her to make sure I was understanding what she was saying accurately, is even though we know our revenue from property taxes will be lower, we want to ask for the largest budget allowed for the statute will allow. Because they can't give us anything more than we ask for. And and they will adjust it and say this is where it is. But also if we're not growing it, that's money that we will never get back. So if we don't grow it all this year and next year, we're like, oh wait, we could have done more, it will be less than what we could grow our budget. She was saying that, from her experience up there, prior to her, they always had they never took the highest budget they could. And her doing math going back, their budget is around $300,000 less now than what it would have been had they been growing, which means that's money that they can't budget for repairs and building maintenance and stuff like that. So they would have to go up for a bond for it. So it's very counterintuitive to say, oh, I know I'm going to be making much less money last year. Let's ask for a larger budget. But that's what the DLGF, Department of Local Governmental Finance. Recommend. So yeah. So just as we get into that process, it's kind of counterintuitive.
We'll ask for the moon, but we'll be
Yeah.
willing to adjust our budget.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what happened last year. We asked for everything and they said like a little bit less.
Yeah.
But
Yes, so to for a pony, but you never mind.
You got a stuffed pony. don't you?
It's-
so,
Okay, thank you.
anything else on?
Item 2 on this. With new furniture purchase.
Yeah.
Is that something that we need? I mean, we talked about discretion. I just see lots of zeros and just want to make sure that.
Yeah, it is budgeted. It's in our budget this year. I just want to let you know that was my plan was to move forward with those type of expenditures so that, next month we see where I'm spending money, that's why I'm spending money. It's just, we can't save it all.
Right.
We have to spend the money. That's why they allocated on these funds. We have the budget for it, but that is my plan for the move forward.
We had already budgeted.
Yeah.
And we generally max out our rainy day allowance, don't we?
Yeah.
So we actually have to spend the money.
Yes, yeah, because if we get to where we have 150% of the budget, we then could be called in for in front of the county to justify why we have so much money. So they've given us money, they want us to spend this money. That's my plan is to continue.
There's a certain percentage that we can not use.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that goes into the rainy day.
Yeah.
But
I would suggest that we consider trying to roll as much as makes sense as we can.
Yeah.
I think that next year is probably, we're gonna have to make some tough decisions next year. This year for next year. So the more that we can be able to buffer those changes, because the budget does start to increase again in 27, 28.
Yeah.
So next year, I think it's going to be a hard one. And if we can absorb those, good.
Some of this furniture is what Katie talked about on page 9, that some of it's over 20 years old.
yeah, oh, absolutely, yes.
So,
And,
Yeah.
and as a side note, it's all fabric and hard to clean. I don't know when it was last cleaned, so it kind of takes me out. So the furniture that has been chosen is more of a vinyl, so easier to clean and still wears a lot of time. So
Can we do something valuable with the existing furniture at least? Will somebody take it as a donation?
yeah, we'll donate it or we'll give it to the friends. They can sell it in the store in their sale or potentially, yeah. Yeah, it won't be just thrown out into the dumpster or anything like that. It'll find new life anyway. Anything else?
I wanted to thank you for putting some of the highlights, some of the larger claims right down, anticipating
me too.
board members were gonna say, well, what's this about?
And Angela would ask questions.
All right, yeah, well, that's, I was gonna say, it's usually one of us, it's like, well, by the way, this was kind of an odd expense, so thank you, you, and I looked at those, I was like, oh, and then I spotted them later on, I was like, "Ah, he already told us that was for, thank you."
And on the computer, so if you're wanting to move the other computer purchases up a year, do you know how much that is and what line item was it?
Not a year.
Oh, okay.
We had spaced out this year's refresh
Oh,
over the quarters.
Okay,
But
perfect.
all the new changes in pricing, they've already gone up, so we might get it now before we are.
They're not going back down. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I thought it was a different
Thank you, Mr.
fiscal year. It's the same.
No,
I agree with
I don't
you.
have
Great idea.
Great.
I heard that, sorry. That's what I was looking at.
all right, any other questions on budget, there stuff?
Thank you for putting that together, Mike.
Thanks for reading that 10 times and figuring it out for me.
They have a table that says it's this with 7% all across, and another table says, no, it's 2%. It's not make sense though. Just an Lane, you know, I was invited to participate in a event at Allen County Public Library for PBS Fort Wayne, where we previewed the movie Free for All, talking on public libraries, and then had a short question and answer. It wasn't very well attended. Unfortunately, it's a beautiful day. We really had lots of people sign up. There were like 8 maybe there. And so the Q&A didn't go very long, but it was a great documentary. Had the desire to watch it.
So I was going to suggest that you air it here, but having heard that, maybe we won't. They can only get 8 in Allen County, bid 1.
Well, again, we just
We'll
have to pick a day where it's
have
not
to
good.
Okay.
Maybe we'll do it in
Tomorrow is
winter
gonna
when
get
we're
really
go
dry
outside.
weather.
E-rate, that is the program that helps us reduce our costs based on federal funds for our high-speed internet and our data phones, all that stuff. That process has gone through, it's been approved, and we're good to go for another year.
Is that money in the bank?
It's, our bill is reduced.
Or it goes directly to the telecom?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So we don't have to worry about getting the actual cash out of the
No.
government at this point?
No, they transfer everything for it and just, our bill is reduced. So,
Changes payments.
solar project, I did meet with Deco. They said that it wasn't a slam dunk, yet for that type of project. They also are being affected by all the changes and all their money's in the stock market, so, what they are, the charter says they have to spend a certain percentage of their endowment each year towards grants. Well, that's stock market, so whatever. So as it goes down, they get less spending. So since it's not a straight, yes, this is directly correlated to child education, it's a harder sell. Say it was impossible, but it's a harder sale, especially when this, they have other projects out that they could be. So that's that. I did get the EBSCO solar program grant, application was submitted, based on previous years. It's like the last week of June, they announced winners and stuff like that. So I don't know when, if they'll notify me before if we're a winner or not. So I think at this point, we would either just hold out until we know one way or the other if those, response, grant. Any questions on that? All right, my staff is doing great things. As you can see, the adults, there's a couple new, book clubs, that started, they were being very well, attended. Then, we always have Katie do staff stuff for us, which is always appreciated. Youth services, they had a poetry contest, a blackout poetry contest. for the first time ever doing it, having 75 entries was a great accomplishment.
Speaking as one of the people that did it, it was a lot of fun.
Was it fun?
You should do it again. Yeah, I really did enjoy it.
They put the winners on social media. It was really, really cool.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. And there was a lot of excitement around it from people of all ages, so.
Yeah, I mean, 75 is not bad for a first time.
Yeah.
Thing. It's pretty impressive.
It's really good.
And for the summer reading program, they get a chance to win one of the bundles, but everyone walks away with a free book.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not a chance, okay,
Correct.
thank you.
Yeah, they get a book, but they also get tickets, and they get to put tickets in what they want to win.
Perfect,
And then it's a drawing, so.
thank you.
Speaking of summer reading, it is on all of our minds as we kick off the end of this month. But we are gearing up, and we will be ready, and it'll be exciting. It's, kids of all ages should have lots of fun with it. Lots. We have a lot of presenters coming in. Every week we have someone coming in, you know, whether it's a magic show or a puppet show or there's lots of stuff to do for the kids. Any other questions for me?
Well, tell whoever thought of the reading challenge for everyone not in kindergarten.
Mhm.
Thank you. Because then that encourages other
Yeah.
kids, to read.
Yeah, and that's been very well received too. We've had lots of people already participating. But it says here, 17, but I'm sure that's more than that already. And it's not just, what I love about it, it's not just about reading the books, it's about using the library. So they're supposed to go out and find items on our
That,
catalog and stuff like that, and so.
On page 11, someone gave some really nice statistics about the overdrive marketplace.
Yep.
And the last
That was
paragraph
Katie.
said, yay, Katie. I just wasn't sure about. Do we know usage? How many times the all access romance is being used or it doesn't matter? I just don't know enough about it to. Did I even ask my question correctly?
I was a little confused.
Okay, great. So let me reword it.
Yeah, let's
Try
try again.
bottom, she talked about different subscriptions and how like the example of all access comic. You know, unlimited checkouts for a year for that amount. How many patrons do we have utilizing that for all access romance?
So these would be things that we could do instead of the,
I'll make
We aren't doing these yet.
yeah, there's stuff we could do instead of the hoopla. We could put in some of these subscriptions where they have all access.
Do we know why Darla's going part-time?
Just for life and,
Oh, perfect. I just didn't know if it was on our end. We didn't,
well, no, it's just,
we didn't need to do the line search.
no, it was her decision. There's-
If Darla came out and retired, basically become workforce,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone needs to
So,
free time then, okay,
Yeah.
good.
yeah, so just checking the big picture, that was just going back and forth, what we looked at. I think that sensitive to unfortunate circumstances. That's really, she's a good.
Said several Dell computers went down, are those the new ones?
No,
Oh, praise God.
yeah, those are the old ones.
Yeah.
Well, if they're brand new ones, sometimes that's a
Then
good
they're
thing. If they're still in warranty, then it's, you know.
All right, anything else for the director's report?
Thank you.
I think, all right, we're gonna move on to claims. Mike has already given us a kickstart on that. Thank you, Mike. I think that's gonna be a board favorite. Does anybody have anything else to add to claims?
I'm sure I do. I have question marks on a couple, but I gotta find. Page 30. Spent $1,000 processing supplies for Bodart company.
Yep.
Processing.
So when a book, we order a book, find labels,
Got it.
all that stuff, so we buy both. That's what's our annual purchase for the year.
Perfect. Actually, I didn't even see the word books, processing supplies, so.
Yeah.
there you go.
But yeah,
And why do we have a US post office box?
Because they don't deliver it here.
Oh. Is it a business?
I don't know. I just, as far as I,
Do you all know that?
I didn't know they.
Okay,
I figured we were a business, we had to have a PO box.
okay, that's why.
I can ask Linda if there's a reason they don't deliver, because I'm sure she would like to not have to go. Inspect it every day.
There's a couple things. Oh my gosh.
I think that they're trying to have their expenses with delivering to, with carriers, because when new housing subdivisions go in, they will not deliver to person's house, on foot. They want,
Bank of mail.
bank mailboxes, or I have a plastic mailbox out at the end of my driveway, and they put it in there and they can just pull right up to it like they do in the rural areas out in the country. So, I think that that's what they're moving towards. And pardon me?
PO box, as far as I know.
Since we've been here from the home, we
Yeah.
always spend for PO box.
Thanks.
Yep.
Why are we paying that? Okay, I'm done. Thanks.
Was that a motion, Angela?
Angela would love to make a motion. I don't know what it is, but I would love to make a motion. We accept the, approve the claim.
Yeah,
as
wanna
Mike
approve.
has given them to us.
Greg will
Beautiful.
second the
Right.
motion to approve the claims as presented.
Greg seconds, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The claims pass. This would be the portion of the, meeting where we have public comment, but we did not have any, submissions, so next up is adjournment for the regular board meeting.
Here you go, sir, and that's like 10.
Mike moves to adjourn.
Okay.
I get that.
I'm so sorry. I looked right at you and said Mike.
Thank
I
you, basically.
I second that.
Oh, okay. Angela second or Spencer second. We do have executive session, so this is not the end for us. We'll be moving into